Have you ever noticed how few questions we ask on a daily basis? In fact, in doing research for the book, Will and I found that kids between the ages of 3 and 5 ask 300 to 400 questions per day, whereas adults tend to ask 6 to 12. 6 to 12. And I'm assuming if your life is anything like mine, some of those questions are like, when are you coming home? What should we eat? They're like not questions that necessarily incite any level of change. And in this video, I'm going to share 3 pretty mind-boggling studies and pieces of research that demonstrated the power of a single question to actually shift behavior and spark action and change the world and perhaps your world. Videos are terrible places for citations, and so all the citations and all the research lies in this book in the footnotes, and you can get a free excerpt in the link in the comments. The first study I want to share was done with actually over 40,000 participants, and what was found is that simply asking if people were planning to purchase a new car in the next year increased their purchase rates by 35%, which is actually kind of insane. So obviously a stat like that always needs to be taken with a grain of salt, and you should do more digging and research into it. This video is meant to be a shorthand bit of those stats. But 40,000 people just asking, hey, you thinking about buying a car? And the chances that they buy a car go up. Like, that's pretty wild. The second study came straight from the Journal of Applied Psychology, and they found that asking if a person was planning on voting in an upcoming election increases the chances that they voted by 25%. Think of how we convince people to vote versus that technique. Are you planning to vote in the upcoming election? Versus, you should vote, you should vote, you should vote, you should get out and vote. Here's a pin, here's a sign, here's a pin, here's a sign, right? The idea that we have to convince people into things and manipulate them into things is so much more invasive, I feel, than just asking a question. And the reason I think that asking the question, are you planning on voting in the upcoming election, sparks so much action is because questions, unlike sentences, unlike statements, unlike signs, unlike yelling, forces that idea to pass through people's gray matter, right? When I ask you, are you planning to vote, you actually have to think about it. You have to process that in your prefrontal cortex. You have to wonder, am I gonna vote? Should I vote? Where would I vote, right? In another study along the same lines, researchers asked people about their intention to give blood, and that increased the likeliness that people actually went and donated blood by a modest but pretty darn significant 8.6%. So just asking, hey, do you have an intention to give blood in the next handful of months? Increased the chances that people walked into a Red Cross, pulled up their sleeve, and donated blood to potentially save somebody's life. Whoa, that's kind of cool, right? Asking sparks a domino effect. It's this idea that you ask one question, and that one question guides or creates a conversation. And when you have multiple conversations on repeat with many different people, that starts to form culture, and cultures change the world, right? You can't change the world. It's a very big place. But the questions you ask can change the conversations that you have, and those conversations on repeat can start to shift culture, and culture can absolutely make a little dent in the universe. What decades of research boils down to is questions invite your brain to contemplate a behavior, and when you contemplate a behavior, it's more likely that you will engage in it. Now the question is how? How do you craft powerful questions? And to learn, you're gonna wanna watch this video on how to ask questions to get the answers that you want. It's much less manipulative than it sounds. I'm Chad Littlefield, co-author of Ask Powerful Questions. Have an awesome day.